Good afternoon. This is a quick demonstration of some updates to MAVProxy. And was recently out flying with a colleague of mine, and they were trying to use MAVProxy to set up a quad plane mission and found it terribly difficult. So I've done a few updates to make that a little bit easier. So I thought I'd just show what those updates are like for those of you who do use MAVProxy. So what we've got here is a quad plane sitting out near the Spring Valley flying area here in Canberra, the place that I do a lot of flying on the weekend. And when we're creating a quad plane mission, we're going to create a mission that does a circuit with a loop and a do land start sequence for landing. So what we're going to do is start off with a takeoff. So I'm going to click here and say we want the takeoff to be shown on the map here. And I can go mission add takeoff and set the altitude for the takeoff, and 20 meters is good. And notice that as opposed to what's happened previously in MAVProxy, when we add things on the map, it gets automatically added into the little mission editor frame we've got up here, rather than us having to reload and resync. So the next thing we're going to do is start drawing the actual main mission. So I'm going to go mission draw, and I'm doing a mission height of 100 meters. And so what I'm going to do is draw a simple rectangular mission like this, like that. And then I right click to finish drawing the mission, and it's now put in the basic waypoints for a mission. Now I actually want the plane to keep looping around and continue circling around this mission. So what I can do is go mission loop. And so that's now added a loop, and it's automatically set the loop waypoint as number 2. So it's jumping back to waypoint 2, and it's set the repeat count as -1, which is infinite. Now I'm going to adjust that to say 20 maximum circuits, because I want, if I run out of battery, if I lose complete contact with the aircraft and it doesn't fail safe for some reason, I want it to eventually finish its mission and come back and land. So I'm going to modify that one to be 20 loops. All right, so now I want to set up a landing sequence. And the landing sequence is going to start with the do land start. So I'm going to click down here because I want it to come in and start the landing from down around this area. And so then I'm going to add a mission add do land start. So that's added a do land start down here where I clicked. And now I want to draw the sequence for the landing. So again, I go mission draw, and I want to do the landing approach at about 40 meters. So I'm going to go from a waypoint down here, up to here, then across to here, and then I'll start the VTOL approach around here. All right, so I've now got a basic do land start approach sequence. And finally, we wanted to end the mission. It's traditional to land. So I'm going to add a landing waypoint down. I'll put it, just to make it clearer on the map, I'll place it a little bit down here away from the plane. Normally you'd place it right on the takeoff point. So I'll zoom in there a little bit and sort of place it down, say here, and mission, and then add a landing. And if we look down here, it's automatically recognized that this is a quad plane, so it's set it up as a VTOL land. Same with the takeoff. If this was a multi-rotor, it would have used normal takeoffs and landings, or a fixed wing, it would have used normal takeoffs and landings. With a multi-rotor, it would have set, with a quad plane, it sets a VTOL land. It set the landing height at the traditional height of 0 meters above the ground. And I'm just going to adjust the approach height sequence down there to become a little bit lower for this last waypoint up here. And so I'm going to write that up. So now what I'm going to do is just tweak these waypoints a little bit, move that landing point to be down, sort of lined up a little bit better. And I might move it to actually be right on top of where we're taking off. And so we take off, we land at the same point we take off from. And so that looks reasonable. So there we have it. We have a basic mission for a quad plane. And so we could go and fly that mission. So I can go and put it into auto, and I'm going to arm the throttle, and it's going to take off there. I've got a bit of a speed up set. So speed up is currently 3. So there it's flying around, and this is set up with the same sort of navigation points. So I've got a fair bit of wind set. So sim wind, I've got about a 20 knot wind, which is really quite a strong wind. I might set that wind speed down to something a bit more realistic to what I'd be flying this sort of aircraft, down to say 8 knots. All right, so there it's doing our approach. And once it's up around here, I will tell it to RTL, say around there, and it'll come down and fly down to this waypoint. Fly back up to this waypoint. So it's doing the do land start sequence. You have to set the RTL auto land parameter to tell it to use a do land start sequence. And it's really going wide there. So our waypoints weren't actually very well set up. That's why it's a good idea to test your waypoints, and it's overshooting a bit there. So once you're setting up for a real mission, it's a good idea to test it. Make sure you've got enough room. In this case, I set these a little bit too close together, only 154 meters, and we've got a very limited bank angle set up on this aircraft, so it wasn't able to turn around that neatly. So I could adjust that, move that waypoint out to an area where it's going to have a bit more distance to do those turns. And so I've actually got an additional waypoint here I don't need. I'm going to remove that one. That's better, because I clicked extra time on the mouse and the thing when I was drawing. Sometimes it's easy to sort of do an extra click. And I'm actually going to give it a bit more room up here for the approach. So let's move that up to, say, there. And that will give it a bit more room to give it more time to be able to line up for that landing. And this distance here for landing, 185 meters, I'll let it a bit longer to do the VTOL landing. All right, so that should give it a bit better chance. So I'm going to set it back to waypoint 0 and try that again. It is a really good idea to test your missions like this before you fly them for real, and set up the simulator with the same sort of bank angles and things you have on the real aircraft to make sure that it's actually going to, perform as you expect. And you can set up the wind in the simulator to match the approximate wind and direction. So sim wind speed and sim wind direction, so it matches. So I'm going to tell it to RTL again, and it's now, so it looks for the closest do land start, then goes to the waypoint following it. And it should have a bit better chance to line up this time. If not, we'll adjust again until we're happy with the performance we're going to get. And then of course we can go and fly the real vehicle, and hopefully, so that's lining up a little bit better, a bit more of a chance. Still overshot just a little bit, so we could tweak in this particular case, the Q-trans decel to match the actual deceleration that the aircraft can perform. All right, so that's enough to show you. So the main thing I wanted to show was the new options we have in here for adding a takeoff, landing, and do land start, and much better synchronization between the map editor and the display here. Hopefully that will make life a little bit easier for the few people out there using MAVProxy as their main ground station. Happy flying.